to give you tips on how to provide nursing care to patients in psychiatry. Okay, so I have received several questions from students who have been asking me to at least give them tips on how to manage psychiatric patients. So I decided to come up with this video presentation so that everyone else out there may have a chance to learn about this. So these are just tips of what types of nursing management you can give and how you can actually manage patients with psychiatric conditions. Okay. So there are different types of management, and you need to pay attention to what the examiner wants. So during your exams, you are of course given a scenario, and then the examiner asks you to provide management or to nurse this patient with a specific psychiatric condition. So you need to pay attention to what exactly the examiner is asking for. Okay. So there are three different types of questions that you can be asked. Unfortunately, I have no scenarios in this presentation, but I'm going to explain to you what those three types of questions that you can be asked really request for. Okay. So we have three types of nursing management that you can be asked to give to provide to your clients. So the first one on my list is specific nursing care. Then we have general nursing care and nursing by use of a model or a nursing model or theory. Okay, so you have to pay attention to what the examiner wants, as I said earlier on the previous slide. The examiner might be asking you to provide specific nursing care. But what is specific nursing care and how can you give it to your patient in psychiatry? So I'm going to talk about this as well. Then on the other hand, the examiner might be requesting you to provide just general nursing care to this patient or psychiatric patient. It's not specific. You don't really have to talk about anything specifics to that condition. You just have to provide that general nursing care. Okay. Sometimes the examiner might specify to say you have to nurse this patient using a nursing model. So how do you provide such type of care as well? So this is what I'm going to talk about. Okay. So as you are reading your question, you have to make sure that you check for these three. You rule out. You see your question if it's asking for any of these. Okay. All right. So specific nursing care. Under specific nursing care, if you are asked to provide specific nursing care, you need to identify a problem, you need to identify problems and discuss the nursing interventions. Okay, so how do you bring out your information? You can bring out your information using a table as I have shown in this pink table. Okay, you should have a column for a problem and a column for nursing intervention. Okay, so after you identify a problem in this patient, you have to write it down. Then you also in the other column under interventions, you write your nursing interventions. Okay, so what you should do, your aim should be at least for each problem that you identify, you should write at least a minimum of 4 nursing interventions. Okay, so here I've just written 1 intervention, and of course by this time I know you know how to state your nursing interventions in a nursing care plan. So this is how you write a nursing care plan in psychiatry. You don't need the column for goals, you don't need the column for evaluations, you don't need those columns. You just need these 2 columns. Column for nursing for a problem and the column for interventions. That's all. Okay. So how can questions be asked? How can questions be phrased? The question might be phrased like discuss. Identify 5 nursing problems and discuss the nursing interventions. Okay. identify 5 nursing problems and discuss nursing interventions. That's a nursing care plan, meaning the examiner wants you to provide specific nursing care. Specific nursing care means you have to be specific to the condition that the patient is suffering from. What do you suspect these patients to be suffering from? You identify a problem and provide your interventions for that specific problem that the patient has. Okay. So there are 2 ways also in which you can write down your nursing care under specific nursing care, using a column, using a table as I have shown on this slide, and also you can just you may not use a table, so like on the next slide. So you can also just bring out the information as shown on this slide, where you just write the subheading at problem, the problem identified, you write your problem there. Here is risk of injury. Then you also write the subheading that nursing intervention. Then you write your interventions down under nursing interventions. Okay, so this problem must be labeled problem number 1, then problem number 2, problem number 3, until you write all the problems that you have been asked to identify and discuss. Okay. So the next type of nursing care you may be asked to provide is general nursing care. Okay, so the examiner will not phrase questions to let you know that you need to provide general nursing care here. It's up to you to deduce that from how the question has been phrased. Okay. Under general nursing care, you are not asked to identify any problems, or you are not supposed to identify any problems. You just have to talk about those areas of interest. In short, I can say you have to use the epiphenema. Now, this is a epiphenema in psychiatry. There is not really a specific part that you have to talk about, but you have to manage all areas of all areas that need attention in this patient's life as he is under your care. So you have to begin with just attending to the patient's environment, patient safety, nutrition, hygiene, assertiveness training, group therapy. Under general nursing care, there is a lot that you can talk about. So this is just a list. This is just an example of what you need to talk about. So under environment, you need to write your interventions under environment. When you say environment, write your nursing interventions. What are you going to be doing under environment for this patient? Okay. Under safety measures or safety, what are you going to do in order to provide safety to this patient under safety? That's what you should be talking about. Under nutrition, also talk about what you are going to be doing, your nursing interventions under nutrition for this patient. Okay, you want to maintain an adequate nutritional status for this patient, so you have to talk about the nursing interventions that you're going to talk to provide to carry out in order to meet that balanced nutritional status for this patient. Okay, hygiene also the same. So this is not a complete list of what you can talk about under general nursing care. There are a lot. The list is endless. It can even go up to 20 points here. Okay, these are just a few points. I thought I should just give you an example of how the general nursing care usually comes out. Okay. So when you are writing your nursing interventions under each of these, you need to, of course, give your rationale for that intervention. Tell us why you are giving that intervention. Okay. Then nursing by use of a model. This is very interesting. Some examiners will ask you to provide or to care this patient using a specific model or a model of your choice. So you have to think of any model that you can use in order to nurse this patient. So if you do not know any model, you're going to be stuck. So I urge you to go through these 3 nursing models, because these are the commonly used nursing models. Okay, so we have Henderson's nursing model, which uses activities of daily living, Roper, Logan, and Tierney, which also uses activities of daily living, and we have Orem's self-care model. Okay, so we are going to look at these 3 models in detail so that we know what they are exactly. Roper, Logan, and Tierney activities of daily living. Roper, Logan, and Tierney identified a number of activities of daily living that you need to talk about when you are nursing a patient using this model. Okay, so when you are nursing a patient using a model, you have to use their activities of daily living. Okay, the same way you write your eprophenema or your general management in psychiatry or your eprophenema in medicine, it's the same way you have to bring out your information when you're using a nursing model. Okay, so now the challenging part is that you do not have to mix up these activities of daily living for you pick the activities of daily living from Henderson's, you bring them under Roper, Logan, and Tierney. That destroys everything. So you have to know how the activities of daily living have been phrased under Roper, Logan, and Tierney, and you have to know how the activities of daily living have been phrased under Henderson and under Orem's. Okay, so if you decide to use Roper, Logan, and Tierney model, you have to also bring out the activities of daily living as they have been phrased by in this same model. Don't mix up the activities of daily living. Okay, so this is how Roper, Logan, and Tierney brings out the activities of daily living. The first one is maintaining a safe environment. Of course, this is very important in psychiatry. You can decide to use this model if you want to. Okay, because it's talking about maintaining a safe environment for this patient, communicating with the patient, breathing. Okay, you want your patient to maintain that normal breathing at least. Eating and drinking. Okay, so it's also concerned about the nutritional status of the patient. Eliminating, which is also very important. It's also concerned about the patient's elimination. Okay, so these are needs that the patient has to achieve. Now, your nursing, you can bring out all these 5 elements that I've listed here as your subheadings. Then you start discussing your nursing interventions under each of these. Okay, so what are you going to do under maintaining a safe environment? What are you going to do in order to maintain a safe environment for this patient and yourself? So you have to bring out your interventions now here with rationales. Okay, so you always have to begin with, I will do this in order to do this. Okay, so that's how you use these models. So Tierney has a number of activities of daily living. So on this slide we just have 5, 6. We also have personal cleansing and dressing. This is concerned about hygiene. Okay. Roper, Logan still continues. We have 11, 12. I think we have 12 activities of daily living for Roper, Logan, and Tierney. So we have controlling body temperature, mobilizing, waking and playing, expressing sexuality, sleeping, and dying. So you have to talk about these activities of daily living. So if you feel a certain activity of daily living does not apply to your condition, I think you are safe not to use it. Okay, just talk about the most important parts that you need to talk about, because you may not attend to every area of activities of daily living. So just select what you think is important to talk about under each of these models. Okay. According to this theory, a nurse must be able to help the client to maintain these activities in order to fulfill the basic needs, and must be prioritized depending on the condition. Okay, so those activities of daily living must be prioritized depending on the condition that the patient is suffering from. That's why I said you don't necessarily have to use or to talk about all those activities of daily living. You just have to select those activities of daily living that fit your condition, okay, when you're using a model. I think to me, I can safely say the nursing model is actually very easy to use when you're nursing a patient, if you know the activities of daily living for that model, okay. Then we have Henderson's model of nursing. This one was created in 1955. Henderson's model of nursing emphasizes the existence of both biological and psychological, even social needs that can sometimes lead to a need for nursing care. Okay, a need for nursing care. So Henderson identifies about 14 activities of daily living. So when you decide to use Henderson's, you have to look at these 14 activities of daily living that they have identified. Now, you need to pay attention to how these activities of daily living have been phrased. Okay, so we are usually very sensitive when marking. We want to see that you've phrased the activities of daily living according to the model that you have decided to use. So you've seen that under Henderson, these activities of daily living always begin with 2, 2, 2. Okay, so when you decide to use Henderson also, you have to phrase your activities of daily living just the way they've been phrased on this slide. Okay, so you have to be, the first one here is to breathe normally. So you have to attend to this. If you feel your patient is not breathing well, you can also decide to use to attend to their breathing. Okay, so to eat and drink adequately. If you feel your patient is not eating and drinking adequately and they need interventions or nursing intervention under such this subheading, you need to provide your nursing interventions under this subheading, okay, to eliminate body waste. So Henderson is also concerned about elimination. So you need to talk about anything if you feel your patient needs help in that area. To move and maintain desired posture. If you feel your patient needs interventions in such area where he at least needs to be mobile, you need to at least help your patient in this area as well. Talk about your nursing interventions under this also. To sleep and rest. If you feel your patient needs nursing intervention under this subheading, you can provide those activities of nursing, those nursing activities that will help your patient sleep and rest adequately. Okay. Then we have to select suitable clothing, dress and undress. You need to also, if you feel your patient needs help in this area, write down your nursing interventions under this. Okay, to maintain body temperature within normal range. If you feel your patient needs help under this, discuss those nursing interventions under this one. To keep body clean and well groomed. To avoid changes in environment, injuring others. Okay, so if you feel your patient needs nursing interventions under this subheading, you also have to talk about those nursing interventions. In psychiatry, I think this point is very, very important because most of the patients are usually aggressive. They become aggressive and they'll need nursing interventions in order to prevent any form of injuries. And some, it's not just about aggressiveness. Some are not reasoning properly, so they may end up injuring themselves. So you need to at least provide some nursing interventions under this. Okay. To communicate with others, of course, you need to also provide some nursing interventions under this subheading when you decide to use Henderson's. Okay. So because most of the patients' communication is altered, some have delusions and hallucinations, and so the communication becomes altered. So you need to provide some nursing interventions under this subheading. To worship according to one's faith. Of course, patients also have rights to worship. So you do not have to infringe their rights to worship. So if the patient needs to worship, you have to give them space, let them worship. So you can also discuss some nursing interventions under this if you feel it's important to talk about it. So the 12th activity of daily living is to work in such a way that there is a sense of accomplishment. So if you feel there is need for nursing interventions under this, you also discuss them. To play and participate in recreation. If you feel your patient needs help under this one, you can also talk about it. I feel this one is very important. Number 13 is very important in psychiatry. This can be in our general management. I think this is about group therapy. Okay, group therapy or recreation. Yeah. So you can talk about what type of nursing interventions are you going to put in place in order to help your patient be able to participate in other recreational activities. Okay. Then to learn, discover and satisfy curiosity. So of course, if you feel there is need to satisfy patient's curiosity, under this one you can also discuss those nursing interventions that you put in place in order to meet this patient's need. Okay. According to Henderson, nursing care is required when an individual is unable to carry out activities contributing to health, its recovery, or a peaceful death. Okay, so according to Henderson, this is when you have to render your nursing care services. When your patient is unable to carry out those activities that contribute to their health, to its recovery, or to a peaceful death. Okay. Okay, so the last but not the least model that you can use is called Orem's theory. Okay, so the key components of care under Orem's theory, the nature of the people, where Orem states that a person is a functional integrated duo with a motivation to achieve self-care. Okay. For a health individual, Orem identifies about 8 universal self-care needs that require satisfaction. So for Orem, she only identified about 8 universal self-care needs. Okay, so if you decide to use Orem, you can just look at those 8 self-care needs. Now, let's see how Orem phrased those self-care needs. So this is how Orem phrased her self-care needs. The maintenance of a sufficient intake of air. So if you feel your patient needs intervention under this one, you need to discuss this as well. Discuss some nursing interventions under this. So these must be your subheadings. Remember that these must be your subheadings. Then you have to write your nursing interventions under each of these subheadings. Okay, so if you feel your patient needs intervention under the maintenance of a sufficient intake of air, you have to discuss some nursing interventions under each of these and with rationales. Okay, then the maintenance of a sufficient intake of food. Maintenance of sufficient intake of food. If you feel your patient needs interventions under this, discuss those nursing interventions. Okay. The way you discuss nursing interventions under this is not different from the way you discuss nursing interventions when under general nursing care. Okay, the same way you discuss under general nursing care, this is the same way you discuss under each of these. The only difference is in the way you are phrasing your subheadings. Okay, for Orem, you have to bring them out the same way they've been brought out. Okay, as long as they are. The maintenance of a sufficient intake of water. So Orem is also concerned about rehydration of this patient. So if the patient needs interventions under this, you also have to discuss them. The provision of care associated with elimination processes and excrements. So Orem is also concerned with elimination of elimination needs of the patient. So if you feel your patient needs help in this, you can provide your nursing interventions, discuss them. The maintenance of balance between solitude and social interaction. So if you feel your patient needs help also on this one, what this point is just talking about is social isolation. Of course, your patient needs some interaction with other people. If you feel your patient is isolating himself so much and he needs help in that area, he needs to be able to interact with other people, you need to provide your nursing interventions, and this is the point that you have to bring out as a subheading under Orems. The prevention of hazards to human life, human functioning, and human well-being. So Orems is concerned about the safety of the patient. Okay, so this is how you have to bring out your subheading, this same long sentence here, and just write your nursing interventions, how you are going to provide a safe environment for this patient. Okay. Promotion of human functioning and development within social groups in accordance with human potential, non-human limitations, and the human desire to be normal and maintaining normalcy. Okay. So if you feel your patient needs help in this area also, where you have to maintain the normalcy of the patient, you can also bring out your interventions under this. It's very important. Okay. Activity balance with rest. So if you feel your patient needs interventions, he needs to be able to rest, or he needs to be able to do some activities, recreational activities, this is the point that you need to talk about here. Okay. So for Orems, he feels that there are specific causes of problems that likely require interventions. Okay, so nursing intervention is required only when individuals or their relatives and significant others are unable to achieve or maintain a balance between self-care abilities and self-care demands. Okay, so this is when you have to give the patient, or you have to provide your nursing intervention. Okay, when a patient is unable to achieve or maintain a balance between self-care abilities and self-care demands. What this means is that when your patient is unable to be independent, is unable to do certain activities on their own, then you have to come in and assist the patient to perform these activities so that they get better. Okay. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for listening. So remember those three types of nursing care that you might be asked. I think I've talked about specific nursing care, I've talked about general nursing care, and I have talked about nursing care by use of a nursing model. Okay, so for specific nursing care, you just have to identify a problem and discuss the nursing interventions for that problem. You can either use a table, or you cannot use a table. You just have to list the problems and your interventions under each problem. Okay. Then for general nursing care, of course, general nursing care is the same common care that we usually give, where you just begin with the environment, maintaining safety, and all those. Now you have to note that the general nursing care is actually derived from the nursing models. Okay, the nursing models, that's where the general nursing care is derived from. And under general nursing care, of course, you just have to focus on those important points that you need to discuss, that your patient might need help in. Okay, help with. Under general nursing care, there is a lot that you can talk about, but you don't necessarily have to bring out, or you don't necessarily have to talk about all those as well. You just have to identify what areas are important. Okay, you do not have to leave out environment. Always talk about the environment. Talk about maintaining safety, of course. You talk about assertiveness training in most patients. You talk about the nurse-patient relationship, creating the nurse-patient relationship, very important as well. You talk about assertiveness training, that's under general nursing care. You talk about group therapy, you talk about nutrition, okay, and you talk about hygiene, very important. So you can just talk about these eight areas of intervention that I've talked about. Okay, that's under general nursing care. Then for nursing by use of a nursing model, of course, there are a lot of models, but we just have about 3 nursing models that are widely used. I think I've mentioned Orem's theory. I've mentioned Henderson, and I've talked about Roper, Logan, and Tierney nursing model. So you can take a look at these 3 models and see which one is going to be easier for you to use in your exams. Okay, because most of the time we do not specify to say use this model. We just ask you or request you to use a model of your choice. So you can just major in one model and just know how those activities of daily living are being phrased for that model. Then you bring them out like that when I'm answering your essay. Thank you so much. I wish you the best as you study. And please remember to subscribe to our channel, Guardian Stars, on YouTube, and follow us on Facebook. Okay, it's the only way that you can support us. Your presence, your subscription is very important. For subscription, you don't pay anything, it's free. Thank you so much.